I'm going to say apricots, lemon, ginger, Hi, WhiskyJason here. Whiskey from the viewpoint of an American in Germany. And today I have Glen Breton Rare 14-year-old single malt whiskey. So, I have my sample here from Drinks by the Dram. I got that from the UK. Masters of Malt, and they got it, of course, from the States. But it's an interesting story that actually went over Spain to the wholesaler, and they distributed within Europe. So a little bit to the history. I've already done a video in German about the 10-year-old Glen Breton, as well as the Glen Breton ice wine. Ooh, that was very, very good. Now we have the 14-year-old. In 1988, a man named Bruce Jardine had a dream. I have a dream. His dream was to create a single malt whiskey in North America. And so he went about starting a distillery. He chose the best location in all of the entire area in Nova Scotia, New Scotland, and he picked the island called Cape Breton. It's in the city, or in the district here, of Glenville, and it's in the state, or the province, as they say in Canada, of Nova Scotia. This island was well known for its very, very clear, very pure water. That was the most important ingredient. So the second most important ingredient is, of course, barley. So he actually imported, or the distillery called Glenora Distillery. They have a different name. Glenora is the distillery. This brand is called Glen Breton. Glenora Distilleries import malted barley from Scotland. Scottish barley. So they need, of course, casks. They import them from JD, from Jack Daniels in Tennessee. That's where they get their casks from. And then they started to distill, but unfortunately, they ran out of money. And so a savior had to come. That was Mr. McLean. He became the president of Glenora Distillery. And Daniel McLean, maybe a relative, became the master distiller. They were officially the very, very first distillery for single malt whiskey in North America. There's now a boom of single malt whiskeys in the States. I was just talking to someone the other day on the island of Vancouver Island. There are presently, I think, 4 different distilleries producing, 2017, single malt whiskey. But in 1990, this was the only place in all of North America that actually did this. Single malt whiskey means only malted barley. Bourbon, 51% corn. Rye, 51% rye. American whiskey, I'm not really sure. There's a lot of different things you could put in there. Single malt whiskey, there is no 100% American definition for it, but the Scottish definition of single malt whiskey is only malted barley. So that's where it all started. They produce about 250,000 liters of alcohol in a year. I think Jim Beam and Jack Daniels both produce something around 20 to 30 million liters of alcohol a year. So this is a very, very, very small distillery. There's a 10-year-old version, a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 19-year-old, a 21-year-old, and a 25-year-old. And there's also some different versions that have been finished in an ice wine cask. I tried one, not bad. So, 1990, they finally distilled their very first 20 casks of single malt whiskey. It took basically 2 years for them to go through the entire process of Chapter 11. And then in 1992, they really started distilling again. So what I have is the 14-year-old Glen Breton in my glass, 43%. Over here in Germany, I can get it for about, or Europe, I bought it in England, for about 89 euros for the bottle. You can see the bottle. That's what it looks like. So, on the nose, I have a very, very different animal compared to a bourbon or compared to a typical normal Canadian wine, a Canadian whiskey, for example, J.P. Wiser's. Unfortunately, I've never done this, but you can find many, many videos online for J.P. Wiser's, for example, the 18-year-old. Totally different than what this is, because that's a mixture of many, many different types of things, rye, and maybe even wheats, and of course corn, and rye. I say rye, wheat, corn, and barley. I forgot the barley, because this is 100% barley. And this is just, as I said, 100% malted barley. Nothing else is added, no color, no nothing. Water, yeast, barley, wood. You put in wood cask, and that's it. So, in the nose, I do have a little bit like an Irish whiskey. There's a little bit of the fruitiness in there. I get I'm going to say apricots, lemon, ginger, I'm actually going to go for pineapple, and I'm going to go for a red currant. The alcohol is a little bit there. There's a little bit of sweetness and there's a little bit of wood, but it's basically just a push of all those nice fruity notes. Typical for a grain whiskey. For a barley whiskey. More typical for the Irish than for the Scots. It tastes or smells, a little bit like a Glen Scotia that I had with 15 years. It would be a mix between the Glen Scotia 15 years and the Dingle 3-year-old that I had from Ireland. More towards the Dingle than actually towards the Glen Scotia, at least on the nose. So there was a lawsuit between the Glenora Distillery because of the name Glen Breton. Glen means valley in Gaelish or Gaelic. And the Scottish Whisky Association, SWA, sued them. And I think it was like 5 years of a legal battle because they wanted to have a copyright, a trademark, protected intellectual property for the name Glen because we associate the word Glen with Scotland. But unfortunately, Nova Scotia means New Scotland, and so all these Scotch people in the 1800s actually immigrated to the Nova Scotia, and they brought their language, traditions, and also these names to the area. So they actually named a waterfall close by Glen. And so, fortunately, the Scottish Whisky Association, those evil people, I'm a friend of Compass Box and their disclosure policies, the Scottish Whisky Association lost, and now they can continue using the name Glen Breton. And there was a 15-year-old Battle of the Glen, which was a limited edition, 4,200 bottles worldwide in 2010 to commemorate that battle that they won. Now, I'm going to try this, a little bit of tasting. There's something in the nose. Sorry, I said I'm going to do something, but I'm not. It's a little bit like you mowed your lawn, and you take the clippings from the lawn, and you put it on your compost pile, and you come back 2 weeks later, and then you smell that compost pile. And the lawn, that cut grass starts composting, and there's a little bit of a decompostation. Is that a word? It decomposed a little bit, and it has a special smell. Yeah? I get this a little bit here. Not my favorite smell, by the way. That together with the ginger, with the apricots, with a little bit of pineapple, with the black currant, as well as a Granny Smith apple. I think I haven't mentioned that, but a lot of apple is there in there as well. Good, let's try it. Nice, but not wow. Comes in. It's not hot. There's a little bit of alcohol there. But it just comes in your mouth and you have a lot of the barley. Then the fruits kick in. As I said, a little bit of green apple, a little bit of ginger. I'm going to even say a little bit of the apricot. A little bit of wood, a little bit of the sweetness, a little bit of alcohol. It just remains like that. And then you swallow. And what happens is, they reused the first fill bourbon from the first fill barrels from Tennessee, from Jack Daniels. And it tastes as if a few of those barrels didn't really hold up for the entire 14 years. There was a little bit of foulness in them. They just kind of, one or two just kind of didn't have the high standards that they should be. There's a little bit of a bitter wood in there, even a little bit of foul wood in there. Rotten wood. Just a little taste there. And it's not a great taste for me. I've had much, much better scotch. I've had much, much better single malts. I've had even better Canadian whiskey than this. But it's light. It's a spring whiskey. It's not heavy. There's absolutely no smoke, no peat, nothing along those ranges. It's a very, very delicate whiskey. But the aftertaste is not really up to par, in my opinion. So what do? I grade them. I'm a teacher. I teach English as a second language. Amazing, isn't it? And here in Germany, and I give them grades. Is it an A? No. Is it a B? No. Is it a C minus? Yes. It's not a D, it's not an F, but it's a C minus. Absolutely not my favorite. Now, as I said, the price is somewhere between, at least here over here in Germany, between 70 and 90 euros, depends on where you look. And for that, I'm going to give it a D minus for the price. It's exclusive, it's special. We don't have many Canadian whiskeys over here in Germany. We don't have that many Glen Bretons at all over here, but I will be reviewing the future, the 19 as well as the 21-year-old. Unfortunately, I don't have anything left of the 10 or the ice wine. Otherwise, I do that in English as well. But you can see some other videos from other people online that have done that. So, thank you very much for watching my video. Always like, always subscribe, as well as comment. So, I have over 400 plus videos online in German. Sorry, Lord. I do German videos. I'm not really into the English videos so much. The only thing I try to do with English videos is if there's a whiskey I can't find online with a video, I'll do it myself. And that's what I did this time. And that's what I'm going to do with a 19-year-old as well as a 21-year-old. So thank you very much for watching. All the best. See you soon.